Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to vermontitude.com, reformer.com, brattleboro.tv, and locally on Comcast Channel 1078. We come to you from our studios at the Innovation Box on Landmark Hill. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its borders. Today we're talking restorative justice with Motel and Kaci, Viado, co-directors of the Restorative Justice Programs at Interactions, formerly known as Youth Services. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being had, as the jokes go. All right, let's get into this now. We had a little conversation before we went on the air, and it had to do with me not calling you Youth Services and calling you Interactions. Explain.
Yeah, sure thing. Do you want to take over?
Sure, I can start us off.
All right.
So, as you said, actually, it was about 2 weeks ago that we launched our new name and brand, Interaction. And there's a couple things I want to say about this. One is that for us, it is very much about our insides matching our outsides and being able to communicate to the world about who we actually are. So for decades, actually, Youth Services has been serving people of all ages, including adults all the way into their 60s and 70s that get sent our way for court diversion. And also, we've had restorative justice programs for years, decades, since the 90s. And actually, the name Youth Services, again, didn't really reflect that. So for years, we'd been talking about changing that up. And the Community Justice Center, which I used to direct, came on board with Youth Services, enhancing our restorative justice programs and, again, bringing on more adult programming. So this has been a long time coming, and we chose the name Interaction after a couple years of going through a pretty intensive process, because it's not just about what we do, but about how. And we believe that the name Interaction actually speaks to us working together with a sense of mutuality and connection, and not just someone serving someone else. It's about how we come together and how we regard each other.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we still have youth-facing services.
Sure.
That hasn't gone away. We're still doing the same work. We're just under a new name.
Okay.
That's right.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
No, nothing further needed there. All right. Well, so, it is difficult, as you know. I mean, Youth Services has had, and it's still the same people doing the same work. It's just a name that makes a little bit more sense. And change is good, right?
Yes.
So, let's talk about this. This is a thing I really kind of want to drill into. I want to drill into the whole restorative justice, because I want people to sort of understand it as it's been explained to me. In my old brain, there's just this couple of different ways you can do things. But let's talk about like the traditional way of doing things versus the new things. So I don't know which one of you, both co-directors. So it's
Yeah.
I'll take it. So
Okay.
I'll start with sort of understanding the differences between the traditional criminal justice system and restorative justice.
Okay.
So in our traditional criminal justice system, we've seen it on TV. We all have seen SVU. We know some of those words. But we're asking the questions, who committed a crime and what punishment do they deserve for that crime?
Right.
In restorative justice, we're switching that up a little bit. So we're asking who was harmed by the offense, what their needs are as a result of the harm that was created in the offense, and what we can do to make amends for some of that harm. So we're looking at it more holistically and thinking about not just a responsible or offender, a responsible party, or a victim and harmed party, but expanding it out to the community, to people connected to the offense or incident. And we're trying to build positive connections to repair relationships.
Okay. All right. So how does that work? I mean, how does that rubber hit the road?
Totally. So there's several ways that restorative justice can kind of come into that. And one way that we tend to do most often at Interaction is through restorative justice panels. So we have a responsible party who's meeting with volunteer community members to talk about the offense,
Okay.
to talk about the who and the how and what they can offer. And through those conversations, they explore what potential amends they could try to do. So it's more of a conversation and inviting people to talk about what's happened and what they need.
Okay, let me do this. Let me build a scenario on, and this is based on a conversation Mel and I had a very long time ago. Okay, so it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Your neighbor is just blaring music, and I feel 50% of the time you can go in and knock on that person's door, and you can say, "Hey, people are sleeping, man," and that person may respond with, "Oh man, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. Let me go turn it down." But I also find that there's the other side of that coin where they're just like, "Shut up," and go away. So who deals with that? How do you roll that out before it becomes a police incident? And what does that look like?
Yeah. Do you want to take this?
Yeah, I'll start with that. So, excuse me. So first of all, I'm with you on that, Fish. And this is an experience that I try to live in my daily life, in my own neighborhood and at work. Like, we've got a group behind us at the office. They're very loud. They're very boisterous. That's how they communicate with each other. There's lots of slamming, lots of swearing. And sometimes I pull down my window and I say, "Hey, I really like that song you're blasting. I'm on a call right now, and I don't know if you know this, but when you're blasting that music, I can't hear the person I'm talking to." And they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We'll turn it down." So I just want to affirm that so much of this is deeply basic. Like, it's not a new thing, actually. It's an old thing, which is when someone in the neighborhood's doing something we don't like, we say something to them. And half the time, or some percentage of the time, they're going to be like, "I had no idea. I was in my own world doing my thing. I feel you," and they change their behavior. And you're saying, like, what about when that doesn't work? So first of all, I just want to our watchers, our listeners, I want to encourage you to try. If it feels safe, try. Because I think so much of the time people are like, "I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going to happen." If you don't feel comfortable trying, there's a couple things that come to my mind. One is, like, maybe there's someone else who does feel comfortable trying. Again, like, sometimes for me, I'm like, I'm probably not going to talk to a big burly dude that I don't know. But maybe my neighbor, who is a big burly dude, who cares about the situation, might come over with me. Or maybe the big burly dude that lives next to me knows that guy and is going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I know that guy. He works some funky hours. He can be kind of a hothead, but when I talk to him, he chills out." So I think there's ways that we can lean on other people to maybe try to do the things that we can't. And then this is another thing I want to say, and I hope I'm not skirting around your question.
No,
we'll get to what happens when that doesn't work. But I think the key for us is always about building community and building relationships. So something that, again, is very basic is community, is let's have those block parties. Let's have those cookouts. Let's have that kickball at the neighborhood school. Let's have those community meetings. Let's build community so that when my neighbor at 1 o'clock in the morning is like being real loud, I can be like, "Hey, remember me from the other day?" Or I get to build a relationship with him at the barbecue where I find out more about him and realize, oh, we both have pit bulls. We have some common ground, so that I can lean on that common ground in order to make that connection, right? So again, I hope I'm not skirting the question.
No, I don't think you are at all.
We need to dial back. We need to step back and look at the big picture. And we believe actually that, relationships are the intervention. That is our tagline. And for the most part, when we build those relationships, it really opens up what we can do when someone's doing something we don't like.
Right. So here's one of my favorite things to say is collaborative communication.
Yeah.
Right. So, and as you pointed out, sometimes just, okay, I don't feel comfortable. I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
Let me ask my neighbor. And then the neighbor's like, "Oh yeah, let me just walk over there. I'll just tell him he's being a fool." And problem solved. And again, I believe that works more times than people are willing to give it credit. If you just kind of, once you face up with somebody and say, what you are doing is really impacting my right for, a quiet well-being. And then, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." And sometimes that's not always the case.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's drill into this. So how do you roll these things out though? Yeah.
So what does it look like in practice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Restorative justice in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Do you want?
I can start it off, but then I know this has been a big portion of your work recently. So we have restorative justice programs that are coming through the court or coming direct referrals from the police department. But we also have restorative practices that are happening in the community.
Right.
So we have some community-facing restorative practices, some folks doing that work. And that can look like conflict between neighbors, like we just sort of talked about.
Right.
It could look like conflict with friends, family, maybe a landlord. So it's taking it not just within the criminal justice system where someone has already broken a law, but maybe ahead of time. We can have those collaborative conversations. And I'm hoping you can share some of that work that you've been doing.
Yeah, we have two main programs that we've been kind of piloting in the last year. And one of them is a part-time community restorative practices coordinator. So someone can call her up and say, hey, I'm having trouble with my neighbor. I've tried talking to them. It's not working. Can you help us? And so that way a professional can help navigate that conversation if both parties are willing.
Yeah.
And then we have another program that is very similar, but is actually a partnership with Groundworks and HCRS. So we have a restorative practices person embedded at Groundworks. And so they are able to work with folks at the drop-in center, at the permanent supportive housing sites, both to, build community among tenants and staff, and also to help if a problem comes up, some sort of conflict in the community, that person can help people have a conversation together about what's going wrong, how can we make things right. And so it's a more collaborative way to deal with problems before they escalate into something that might result in police involvement.
Yeah, I mean, I love these approaches. I think that these are not new ideas. I just want to point that out. This talking to your neighbor about not acting a fool has been a thing that's been around since the dawn. Totally, since the dawn of time.
We got to remember how to do it.
Yeah, and that's it. And now that we sort of live in this digital age where you can just complain over Facebook and have everybody troll in is a problem. I don't think it's helping the situation at all. Yeah. But on here, you say volunteer opportunities. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to. So we always have volunteer opportunities for people. If folks are interested in being on a restorative justice panel where you're meeting with other community members and having those conversations about incidents or offenses that have occurred, you're acting as a representative of the community and also inviting that person back into the community so we can have those relationships and those connections.
Okay.
So there's those options. And then sometimes we have options for just one-off situations, if that's something you're interested in. And we also have volunteers who staff our COSA program, which is supporting folks that are coming out of incarceration.
Okay.
So there's a multitude of volunteer opportunities that can be weekly, monthly, one-off. Just reach out to us and let us know.
How do we do that?
Yeah. I would think the best way is to send us an email or give us a call.
All right.
Do you want us to spell out our emails?
You can, or you can just, do you have a website that they can go to?
We do. Right. So our website, which is undergoing lots of changes right now as we transition, is interactionvt.org.
Okay. Perfect. I feel as though this conversation could last 2 hours.
At least.
There's a lot of stuff. I want to thank the both of you for coming on and just giving us kind of a snapshot of what this looks like. And I would love to have you guys come back and we could talk a little bit more at maybe in a different format a little bit for a little bit longer of a time.
Do you have conflict that you want to work through? We'll help.
Okay.
Let us know.
I do.
We all do. Yeah. And I think that's part of the point, too, is it's totally reasonable and regular for us to have conflict with each other. We're humans. We harm each other. And so the thing is, how do we move forward after we harm? Because we are not going to create a world in which this stuff doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Right.
That is unfortunate. Well, listen, thank the both of you for coming on Vermontitude today. I know it was quick, it was down, it was dirty, but I think we got a lot of good information out there. And good luck with the transition from youth services to interactions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.